Okay, hi. I should be loud enough to hear me over the fan. The music is pretty loud, so hopefully it works out. I'll try. Maybe a little closer? I don't know. Okay, and then also, warning, I wrote in a description once, apparently I don't notice a lot. Even like on my best day and everything, my voice, and I'll just automatically become quieter sometimes, and then next no longer loud again. And for me, this is loud, but you're like, oh, this is normal, so we can actually hear you. But like, part of it's because of recording, and part of it's just because when I speak, I just, out of habit, I just speak quieter, so I'm like, I don't want you to hear me. And then I'm just not very good at it. Okay, sorry, no. This is why Max also had to pull up the idea folder. Yeah, okay, so this week has been more different and more productive and more, just a little bit more happier overall, just because new things keep happening. Mostly I'm getting more and more new ideas popping in my head. Most of them are actually old ideas that just reappeared, but we're finally actually writing them down. And then we're more optimistic and happy about things because we finally made a lot of videos that we talked about like months prior. And we finally got to them, and we finally remember those ideas, and we finally talked about them. And we finally made those videos, and they were finally published. And there's actually room on this phone now because finally everything uploaded. And then I also, even though I'm working and everything, I'm also making videos right now, even on work nights apparently, which is like not a good thing. It's a good thing because it's out and everything. Nice to stop making space. Okay, it's a good thing because it's like getting out and everything, but I was like super chaotic and I was worse at work. But actually writing the ideas down helped me focus at work, and then you're like, oh, this is actually a problem I have at work normally. But since there's ADHD awareness and I'm learning new things, and I'm like, oh, new thing. I actually notice my problems. I'm not like, oh, it's just normal. I'm like, oh, it's weird. And then you have to figure that out yourself. Okay, sorry. Yeah, no, but this is just a short video about matching. So I feel like we're talking more and more about ADHD and everything. But if I do have ADHD, or what the hell is wrong with my head, and what seems to make sense, and what I related to, in other videos, they were like, oh, when two neurotypicals neurodivergent. Basically, if someone's ADHD and someone else is ADHD, they have different conversations, and they can usually be matches, and they can usually have conversations, and there's usually less confusion and things. But like, and then even if like ADHD and autism are like they're different, they can also be like matching because, yeah, okay. And I know Max is also really good and addicted to matching games. Max is like, I can do this, I can do this, I can match things. I can see that something's like, yeah. I can't do the memory matching games. I can maybe do a tiny bit, but I still suck at it. But I can do where they're all there together. And then it'll still be a struggle, but Max is getting better and better because Max is now addicted to matching. So, because it'll be harder levels and everything, so they'll be closer, they'll look all the same and everything, so there'll be like the tiniest bit of difference, especially since a lot of them, it's usually like tiles, and some days like I have to go back to it and everything. Max is obsessed with, and it's okay, and since he's obsessed with, he keeps getting better at solitary and matching games. And but the like more challenging one and the more challenging levels one, everything, that matching game that I'm really addicted to. And Max only knew and was inspired and started playing solitaire in this matching game because his grandma played it on the computer, and Max was like, what is this? This is an interesting game. And Max just obsessed and watched them play solitaire for hours. Yeah. Mostly because it was the only thing they could play on the internet, and they could only understand how to do. And the only thing that didn't take internet and didn't load. And the only thing like I understood for the most part. And Max is like, don't confuse me with like blackjack or anything else or poker. No, you can't do this to me. Max just knows very, very basic solitary. Everything else confuses me and I can't do it. Okay, no, but sorry, that's about games. Oh, but that game. Okay, I finished my thought. Finished that sentence. Okay, so for the matching game, it's like most of it's like in Chinese characters or Asian characters. I don't know the difference. So, Asian character. It's not English, that's all I know. like, it doesn't look like Spanish, and Max took, like, a French class, and French and Spanish look slightly similar, and a little bit like English, except with extra marks, and they at least use the same alphabet. The letters might just mean different things, so they might be a little bit different, but for the most part, they use the same alphabet. They might just have different dashes and things like that, and obviously different sounds. But they at least use the same alphabet and the same letters, and it at least looks like letters, and it's not really the same case for other countries, and especially Asian countries. And Max is the only thing with Max's nose. Max is like, yeah. And that's the only way Max can be like, oh, not English. And so we don't try and read it, because Max is like, I can't even read English, and we struggle understanding reading English sometimes, and it looks like a foreign language. So then we're like, oh, it is an actual foreign language, don't try to read it. And then we're like, oh, no, you switched to, like, Chinese or an Asian, so there's definitely no hope for you to even guessing what it means. Yeah. And at least, like, some countries, they at least have the numbers look the same, even if the commas and the decimals mean different things. We use the same numbers, or at least they look the same. Okay, yeah. No, but, yeah, Max noticed, and Max, like, it looks like an Asian character on a lot of them, and then there's, like, maybe a dash or a slight mark. And that's, like, the only difference. And they usually, like, look the same or the same color. And they're, like, they usually do it to, like, trick you and everything. So it's a harder game and everything. And then they're adding in these weird circles recently to have pictures. They're, like, dragons or something. I think they're dragons. And then they're adding, like, more colors and more differences and more things that look identical. Sometimes it's harder, and you're like, I can't match things, and Max can't, like, finish a game a lot of the time. Especially since, like, Max can usually, like, get really close to finishing a game, and then Max just can't find the matching, or it's, like, hidden underneath, because it's in layers, it's in a pile. And if you don't always make the right order of matches, then you can't reveal the next match, because it'll be underneath in a different layer. And the main thing is that it doesn't light up, and it's the only way to tell the difference. And then Max has to make sure that it's not like a screen protector, or like just my lighting dimming, my brightness dimming, or a setting problem. Yeah, okay, but yeah, that's just playing the game. Okay, no, but Max did get that, it's going to be like matching. No, but when you have like ADHD and everything, and especially if you're talking about the same topic, you communicate without words most of the time, and they know what words you're saying. But if you're not, like, 100% accurate and confident about a topic, and as long as you make that clear to a normal person, you're like, hey, it's been a really long time, and I don't really remember the details. And they're usually like, oh, you haven't, like, read this book in, like, since, like, 5th grade or whatever, like, with Hunger Games. And they're like, oh, I'll be a little bit more forgiving and understanding because it's a little bit closer to normal people forget details, you know. Except she's actually, like, a lot more normal, so she forgot, like, a few things, and then she's also like, oh, I'm missing a name here or there in my memory, so I'm going to look it up, and I'm going to find it, and be like, oh, yeah, this is what I forgot, and remember. But it's not going to be for me, and I'm also not going to be ambitious enough to figure out those details. Because if I forgot it once, I'm going to forget it again. I'm not going to remember. Yeah, but, so for those situations, to fill in the gaps, and to, like, fix what confused us, and just fill in the details so what makes more sense, normal people are helpful for that. But when it doesn't make sense, and they're not, and if they do get frustrated, because they'll probably get frustrated with us and everything, you know, because it's more than once messing up, you know, and we're missing, like, full gaps and a lot of details and all of that. And then there can be a lot of confusion if we don't get the words right. That's going to be another video about writing, because I'm a lot better at writing than with words and speaking. So Max will 100% and can do text, but can't do speaking. Can't do phone calls. Because we have to practice for hours and hours. Because maybe we only have to practice an hour or 30 minutes, or we'll figure it out most of the time while we're writing, and also all the details will come to us, and we can always go back and edit, and also a new thing. Okay, that's a different topic. That's writing. No. But matching, but, like, yeah. Because a lot of time, even if, like, oh, you both have ADHD, so you should get along, if your headspace and your energy is not matching, and you also not willing to make an effort, Max is like, oh, since all these new things have been happening, and Max feels a little bit accomplished and proud of herself and a little bit more happy. new things just keep popping up, so we have more ideas and everything. When we're actually doing something, we're more willing to interact with other humans and put in the effort and really talk and not just like be completely shut down and run away from the conversations and be like few as words as possible, and then even minimal effort and less than minimal effort for few little saying as options. Because if you say as little as possible, it can cause confusion, and it might be just because you're a habit, or you're just trying to lie because you're trying to get that thought out and be done with it. And then also, you're a lot more forgiving because you have to interrupt the other person, otherwise you forget your thought and you can't finish what you're talking about, and you can't correct them and be like, hey, that's not really what I meant, and here's what I meant. And they're a whole lot more forgiving because they'll probably forget what they were saying, and they don't notice that they're being interrupted. Because if you wait, and you have to wait, and you're forced to wait, then you're just annoyed, and then you might forget, and you will 100% forget. Now all you feel is annoyed, and you're like, nope, I give up. This is too hard. I can't do this. This interaction failed. I'm going to go hide. But Max was like, I really made an effort, because Max really talked to someone in the morning. That was another reason why we were so drained. And we barely made it to work, and we slept. We fell asleep again. Because we were like, oh, 20 minutes. We slept longer, we said, because it's 4:40, hit snooze. Okay, 4:50, snooze. Okay, 5, get up, because you don't have any clothes on, so it'll take you that 10 extra minutes. You're like, nope, pass out again, you hit snooze. Okay, 5:10, you 100% have to get up, and you're like, okay, fine, I'll hit stop and not snooze again. And maybe I'll think about playing music, but then you pass out instead. And then someone walks in at 20, but you have to be gone, so you have alarm at 5:30, because you have to be in your car leaving, and out the door and be fully dressed by 5:30, otherwise you can't make it to work. Even though you're like, oh, you should have like 30 minutes still to get to work, but you're like, no, that's how it works. And you're like, but I woke up an hour early to get to work, but you're like, no, I needed all those alarms in case you fell asleep, and even if you didn't, and you woke up before your alarm, and you still were awake, and you're like, oh, like, I woke up at 2 p.m., and I've been awake since, you still might not make it to work? Okay, sorry. Issue with timing and all of that. Because Max probably forgot to write that down as a separate video. Okay, yeah, but no, so you put the effort in, and then you're matching, so you can have conversations, and they flow, and when they jump from topic to topic, they don't mind, because they also probably forgot, and the most important thing is, they're a lot more forgiving, and they understand, and they're like, oh, I do that too. And my mom more is like, oh, maybe I am autistic. And Max is like, you are autistic, Mom, because that's where we got our problems from. That's why Daniel's autistic, but he's a little bit better than you, and he mostly learned how to be better than you because you're really bad. Like, you're really, really bad. Brother is like functioning, and then really high functioning and almost normal compared to you, and then you're not like, you're like, you should probably be institutionalized, and you can't really hold a job, and she shouldn't be driving, and she mostly can't drive, but she kind of has to, you know, because how else were we, as people, as kids, going to get anywhere, and how else were we going to learn how not to drive, like that, but yeah, and she can't cook either, so she is a danger to herself and others, but not enough, and not in ways that we can prove to, and that will force us to pay money to get her help, you know? Because we're poor, and we're like, that costs money, and Max, we had to teach Mom how to fill out Medicaid and make sure she's applied for it and everything, because she qualifies. But she still won't be probably willing to be tested or anything like that. And then I'm like, and then she'll be like, oh, I'll forget something, and then I'll think about it now, later, and like, yeah, that's probably being autistic. And especially since Max is like learning more, and he's like, oh, maybe this is true, and I'm learning things. So Max will be like, yeah, something's wrong with you there, Mom. So I'll figure it out, and that way we'll match. But yeah. But I have to be like patient and everything, because if we're not matching and everything, then she'll get more distracted, and she'll forget things and make me forget things, and then especially if I'm in the middle of a story and she interrupts, or she wonders, or she asks questions, or I can't finish my story, or I have to repeat my story. Because I'm like, I end up repeating things anyway. But if I'm in a mood, then I get really annoyed, and I usually just give up, because I'm like, if you didn't understand the first time, and Max is actually willing to go through the second time, Max probably forgets by the third time. And if we didn't forget, we forgot now, or we just refuse to do it again, because we think it's on purpose, or we're just mad at you, or we're just annoyed. So even if it's not on purpose, now it's gone, because we were willing to communicate, and now it failed, so we must leave and be done. Okay, yeah. But it's really, really rare for it to match, because Max has, like, depression, anxiety in the way, and paranoia. So very rarely are we willing to interact. It's also, I think I made a video about being hyper before, but then I'm gonna make it again, because I didn't see it on my list, and Max just remembered about it, and Max just wrote it down. And Max is like, if I write it down, it also means even if I made one video before, I'm probably going to make it again. But at least I'm done for a little bit, or I did it once, just because I wrote it down. And Max like, plus I have to do a lot of things over and over again, so I'll just repetition. Max has to tell you, do it. It's like with everything, I just, and then if I have to tell someone, then I also have to write it, and I also have to tell everyone. So, so I have to tell people in person. That's also happened with a few of the videos I do. Even after the video, you're like, oh, I should be done now. And then Max hasn't made a Hunger Games video, so Max kept talking to people and then learning more things and everything like that. And Max has to talk to people, make a video, and then probably text everyone he knows, and probably also extra people on the internet and people we don't know. And then we let it go. Or we let it go for a little while until it pops up again. Yeah, okay. So that should be everything for meshing, and then we'll probably make a video about writing, and then we might be done, because we probably reach up our storage anyway. Is this the lighting, or is this just me, or... Why does that brighten and dim? Is it the tilting of the camera? I don't know. I'm gonna leave this hat on, because I'm gonna get cold. Okay, hopefully we just speed this up, or post it, and hopefully it doesn't. And we have to, like, either edit it, and then upload it and post it, or we have to, like, just not, because Max had to skip that step, just to get rid of it, And then even if it uploads, we have to, like, wait an extra day, just in case it didn't, because sometimes it'll be like, oh, nope, and failure and everything, and it'll be like, oh, just kidding, didn't actually upload. So yeah, it's just an uploading issue. Max is going to make a video about that. Max is like, I can put another video. Yeah, so apparently it's that video too. That's what this video is. It's just a compilation. Just all the videos together, It's usually how it's going to end up for most of my videos anyway. Okay, but yeah. No. But yeah, for uploading, it has to be in the system most of the time, because you get annoyed and you're like, I should edit a little bit. And you're like, I don't, I'll read it. But then I was like, I won't watch it or listen to it. And then if I do hear any of it, then I have to. Then it's horrible and it must be deleted right away. And that's how that's going to be in the social media video. Because that's how Max got rid of most of his accounts, because it kept just popping up and taking up space. And we're like, oh yeah, we tried this once, but we don't actually use it, so we need to get rid of it, so we can do the other things on our phone and stop slowing down. You're like, some of it's because you didn't update, and like other issues, and just it being a phone and just not having a storage, and just like, oh, you have less and less storage, because they want you to update and everything, because of how they make the phones, but a lot of the time it wasn't the case, especially in the beginning. Beginning was mostly just an issue that the phone had, and they kept working on and making it better, and then they started doing it on purpose, so you'd buy the newer version. Okay, yeah, oh, and then Max was like, oh, may or may not, who knows when Max uploads or posts videos, or remembers to make them, but yeah, Max was like, for the most part, Max was poor, so Max was like, got the same understanding, and was like, oh, I was at the beginning of the internet, and when we first got computers and everything, because we were poor, and we were like, dirt poor, and our parents were super, super cheap, so that means we got everything super old and used and mostly broken, and it barely works, so we were surviving off tapes and the radio and CD, and then we finally learned about CBDs, and we're still using VH types. You know, the big giant things that you gotta put in there to make it read and play the movie, and then those would fuck up. Yeah, and you have to take those out and rewind them, just like with a little tape. Not the sticky tape, it's one of those things that has a recording on it, and you put it in a device, and it plays it. Yeah, that thing. So Max had to do that, and then we're like, oh, what is the CD, DVD thing? And then we're like, wait, what is this online thing? And then none of it loads and everything like that. Especially since we don't want to pay money. So yeah. And, like, I was also, like, taught everything by millennials, because I was taught everything by my parents, well, by my siblings mostly, is what we really learned and we held on to. And so we learned from our siblings, and then a little bit of our parents, but we were like, oh wait, everything's long, so we just have to delete and replace that stuff with more things we continue to learn, and with the more we learn and change and develop, we're like, oh, we're a little bit more like Gen Z, but we're still like, we were taught, and we were like millennials. Okay, so it's going to be a whole video. And it might be like 2, because Max was like, oh, for your, like, because Max started a comment in different conversation, and because they were just talking in general, and they were loud enough so I could hear, and they didn't really care because it wasn't secrets or anything. Oh, and that could be a video about secrets, because Max, like, heard a lot of secrets, but then Max didn't have friends to repeat it to, so, and then they thought I was invisible for the most part anyway, and then when they, like, stopped saying things around me most of the part, when they did see me, they're like, they might steal our secrets, you know, so I just think they might like us because we were like assholes and we bullied them. And Max still probably didn't steal your secrets, mostly because Max forgot, but then if it really juicy, Max remembered. But Max is not tell, and you didn't say the word secret, so Max didn't have to tell people. And also, who's Max going to tell? And who's going to believe Max? And who's going to tell Max? And who's going to even talk to Max? Exactly. So Max has no one to tell, even if Max learns all of your dirty little secrets. And Max can tell now the internet, and Max forgot your names anyway, so it all works out. Okay, secrets we learned, Reagan, that's her name. I'm doubting her last name now. I remembered her name and everything about her, because she, and I told her this compliment once, don't know how well it was received, or if she understood what I said, but I said, you look just like my older sister and everything, because she was the only one out of us, because you're either a redhead, or brunette. And then that brunette might have a little bit of red in it. And those are the only options. And then she broke that pattern because her hair became blonde and was blonde. So you're like, maybe she still was a redhead, but we couldn't tell. And you can't tell in certain lighting with people and everything, you know? Because you're like, even if you're brown, you have brown hair in certain lighting, it looks like you have red hair. So, and then Max used to get upset because people would be like, I don't know what hair color you have. And I was like, it's red. And then Max would be like, I hate my red hair, brown ball, never say the word again. And then Max would be like, and I have to correct people, be like, no, it's not red, it's strawberry blonde. Yeah, or it's not orange. Mostly because Max just hates the color orange. It's like, no, it can be yellow and red, but it can't be orange, because I hate orange. But it is orange. And then if you, like, compare it to the actual red, you're like, it doesn't look like this, and an actual orange, you're like, it's not this dark. So, and Max is like, I just learned the colors, let me keep them straight. Make sure I don't mix them up. Yeah. So I was picky. Oh wait, yeah, that was... Oh no, but he was like, I overheard a conversation, and Max learned secrets. Okay, so the most popular girl, most things to keep her physique and everything, she had an eating disorder. She was apparently anorexic, because she would only eat ice. Because she was also insecure about her looks, and wanted to be skinny. So she would only eat ice. She didn't drink or eat anything. So you're like, she'd eat ice so that she pretended it was a food, but it's really just a liquid, because it melts. Yeah, so, and then Max was like, I couldn't eat ice because I would just hurt my teeth and it would just be too cold. But on rare occasions, mostly because if we're overheated, we can eat a little bit of ice. Or if we're distracted, or if our teeth are maybe a little bit less sensitive that day. You know, all these factors come in. Max is like, I was able to eat ice a few times. But for the most part, most of the time I can't. I just can't. Just like Max can't eat ice cream, we usually just have to wait for most of it melts, and we kind of like it better when it melts because then we can taste it. Otherwise, all we feel is cold. That's how, like, for spicy food, you're like, and like sour food, you're like, all you can taste is sour, or the spice, or the sweetness, and that's it. You can't taste anything else. Which mostly we have to do that and trick ourselves so we can actually eat the food, because that means the food tastes like crap. And it's like either really nasty, but then sometimes even without enough, sometimes there's just never enough spice. Even if your mouth is on fire, and like really, really on fire and intolerable, and you're weeping because of the fire, it still tastes nasty. Even though you shouldn't be able to taste it because of the fire. So yeah. But in those cases, most of the time you just have to be starving to eat anything anyway. Because you don't notice and you don't realize you're starving your body until you're like, oh, I ate like all the food. Because you felt really hungry. Okay. And since we're not hungry anymore, we forgot that we ate all the food. And now we have no food. Yeah. And the food they make most of the time is with meat, and Mexican have meat, because their food went from, oh, it doesn't have any flavor, or like, oh, it's bland, to, and you were used to it and everything, and the older I get and the more flavors I experience, I'm like, oh, there are other options. So everything before that we like tolerated, and like that was bad, now tastes like horrible, and you're like, oh, that's just because it's bad, but now that applies to like almost everything. So unless it's super spicy or super sour, and then you're like, the meat or whatever just calms that down, calms that spiciness and that sourness down the tiniest bit, so it's like bearable, but still the only thing you can taste. That's usually... Dang it, this advertisement is making me distracted. Okay, because... Oh my god, I'm going to talk about this advertisement. Because they're saying all these things, and they're like, oh my god, separating from your family, and like violence all happening, and like scary new things all before you're 12. And they're just talking about like kids from like immigration and like that are foreign who enter the foster system. And I was like, dude, you got all of that and even probably worse just from normal kids in the foster system and who are orphaned or who get adopted and all that, you know? Okay. This is by some Korean artist, and this woman, like, maybe I want to listen to it, but, oh. Okay, because for a while, there was advertisement by Twice, at least that's how it's spelled, and it's spelled in English and everything, K-pop group, this girls group, but this one's apparently something else, and their new song is apparently Easy, and it's on Spotify. And now we're back to music. Okay. Maybe it's lost appeared in our head. Maybe we can finally finish this conversation. Okay, we've talked about everything matching, and then where sometimes you don't... They understand, and you can get through a conversation, and they get what you mean when you lose words, and also when you just make sounds and you no longer need words to communicate. And, like, I was a lot closer to one of my sisters. And also, like, I'm sorry for, like, using the pronouns, but I'm, like, also not, because I was like... Once you get to a healthier place, you'll be okay with me using the old pronouns, and I was like, this is before you knew, so you still thought you were a she and everything, you know? And this is in the past now. Like, it might not be that long ago enough for you to get over it, but hopefully soon it will be. And Max is like, in the past, and so I'll refer to myself. And I always did, even when it was the present, I referred to myself in the third person, and also I was, like, talking about myself. I would be like, yeah, I was a girl, and still now I was like, when I was little, I was a little girl, the she. I guess it's a lot triggering, especially since it's a lot newer at first most of the time for people, and it takes time to get over it, or sometimes you just can't get over it, you know? You can't move on, and you can't grow from it. I don't know. I'm sorry if that's the case, but it's also the only way Max is going to be able to communicate and finally maybe finish the sentence. I promise I know more words and it's a lot faster if I type something and I write something. Because writing and typing, all the details and everything, the details will come to me, and I can also go back and edit. Oh, I hated that in school. That's a different video, Max. Because in school, you turn the assignment in and then you couldn't edit, because then afterwards you're like, oh, I could add this and this. But I love Google Docs because Max does it all the time. Max is like, oh no, I'm done. Like, I'm done. And then even if Max, like, publishes thing on that Wattpad app, Max also has to publish, otherwise Max will just continue to edit and continue to write for all of eternity. And then we'll just move on to a new part, or we can always just go back and edit it, and then knowing that, we can finally move on. Okay, wait. No, but we were talking about, yeah. Okay, so back in the day, even back recently, so they'll probably be like triggered or something. I'm sorry, whatever. I have to keep things straight in my head. But they were a lot better, but, and like, especially with my best friend and everything, even though they may or may not be more neurotypical, and especially with my siblings, so they probably have ADHD, and they were also like, they asked me, and they're like, do you really not? And I was like, I don't think so, no. And that's when Max was like, oh yeah, you were probably right about the ADHD thing. So since I thought it was autism, and I was like, no, I don't have autism. Because Max was like, they're the same thing. I don't know the difference. And Max is like, Max didn't know anything about it. And Max didn't bother to learn. Max wasn't interested at the time. And Max wasn't reminded about it or popped into the feed, But they knew, apparently, before I did. And when Max was like, I might be, and Max made that video, I was like, the first thing I did was like, text them. I was like, I think you're right. You're probably right. Hopefully I'll get diagnosed, and hopefully I can see and talk to a doctor about it, Oh, and then, I forgot to write down specialist, because Max like, maybe we can squeeze it in this video as well. Max will probably need the specialist for everything, and then they'll probably only want to see me twice, and they'll be like, oh, we probably need you twice, and so I might actually see them 2 times. But for the most part, they'll be like, no, I want to do other things, and I'm busy and everything, so I can only see you that 1 time. But yeah, Max full-time needs to see all the specialists they have probably in the world. Like, even with, like, I have no symptoms or anything for the physical stuff, because I'm like, I don't know what I all inherited, and I don't know what all could be wrong with my physical body, but I know, and I'm distracted by everything wrong with my mental body, so we'll work on the mental stuff, and then our normal, regular doctor, they're like, they're supposed to be able to do and everything, they're like, no, go to a specialist, and Max is like, I'll probably actually need to see those specialists anyway, so Max is like, oh wait, I need to just do that instead. And instead of getting referrals and everything, just go straight to them. Just go straight to the specialist. Be like, I need help. Help me. Yeah. So Max is going to try and do that. Max's new idea, new inspiration will be do that. Specialist. Max might still need to write that down. And Max also has a lot of ideas that'll probably just form into a couple of videos. Yeah, probably I'll just merge. Besides just being repeated over and over again. Without being completely finished, like this conversation. Yeah. We said a lot of things, and hopefully then... Oh, yeah. Main point and everything was, we just made noises to each other. Mostly because it's the only thing we could do, but we didn't have to, we didn't have the energy anyway, if we could, to communicate and use words. But we understood, and we communicated perfectly, and it's like, you're like, oh, me and my best friend can read minds. And I was like, I could do that after a really, really, really long time, and depending on the day and everything, we could basically read our minds, because Max just made a motion half the time, didn't even make a noise. And Max didn't even blink or think or do anything, and they knew they knew, and they could communicate with me. And they're like, oh, I get what you're saying. And that was mostly because they figured out what was wrong, and they tried to tell me, but Max didn't know. And then Max has to teach himself, because Max, for most things, you taught Max. But Max didn't get it, and no matter how much you teach him, Max will never get it. But Max is self-taught, because something clicked. And we had to teach what you taught us. We had to teach it to ourselves, so we finally got it. Just because it's coming from me, maybe I'll get it. And then Max might tweak it, or make it slightly different, so I can get it. And then even then, Max might have to reteach himself over and over again. And then if Max has to do it over and over again, then my interest is probably lost, and I still probably won't get it, and we'll just have to give up and move on to something else. And then for most of it, we'll just be like copying of what you said and what I was told. We're just copying it, and we don't actually understand what we're doing, and we didn't memorize anything. We're just copying and pasting without absorbing any of the information. And that's usually how it works for everything anyway. Max didn't learn or remember anything, Max just copied and pasted. And then at that point, after copying and pasting so much, then it's purely muscle memory. My hand knows the answer, but I don't. And our hand is teaching us the information, and teaching us the answer, and making us find the answer. And then a lot of the time, we'll second guess it, but our body knows the answers. We don't. And then our brain usually gets in the way of the body. It's like, well, maybe, and sometimes the body wants to, like, no, I'm right, shut up. And then there's all the yelling I have all the time, just normally. I'm just like, I'll just be like, and mostly just to myself, and I'm like, I didn't make any noise, but I'm like, shut up, leave me alone, all the time. My comeback was, leave me alone. But I was like, no one was talking to you, and no one's around you, and you're trying to make yourself leave you alone, but you're like, it's impossible. So just problems being me. But yeah, no, back to subject, yeah. Okay, so Max makes noises, or like, have his entire conversation just through noise, and we get each other perfectly, and especially if we can't communicate that day, and no matter how we try, words just don't happen. Like, nothing comes out, or like, mumble jumble comes out, or like, maybe a word or two comes out, and then whatever we say is backwards, things like that. And things we usually had to interpret from our mother, so it also helps us understand each other. But yeah, all of that. Yeah, Max would have full situations, and they'd be like, I need water, but they didn't say anything, and they didn't even look at me, but Max knows. And Max will go get them water. Because somehow, you're like, that's like twin telepathy, but we're not twins, we're 2 years apart, and we're not even close to the time, and we barely interact. And even if, like, I live in the same house with these people, like, we don't know anything about each other, and we barely see each other. Just because, like, me naturally being a night owl, and then me picking a job to match it. So there's that little bit of hope that we make it to work, and we can make it to work. And then once we do as long as we keep it as a habit, and we're not like, oh, you could miss one day, because if math could miss one day, we miss all the days, and we just give up on work. Yeah, no. We have to go to work every day, and we have to push ourselves and make we're on time, because if we allow ourselves to be late, or not miss a day, then we will only do that, because that will become the new habit, and it'll break the routine. We have to keep the routine, or sometimes, rare occasion, we have to break the routine, so we can get back to it. Yeah. Oh, this commercial, I like this commercial. I like the product, and then I also just like what they did. And I like the character Hawkeye, and how he stands around the kitchen, and having a kid in the kitchen, and just all really cute, and very happy. And Max, when Max actually first paid attention and really watched it, Max was like, is this Hulk? Like, who are you? And Max was like, oh, you play Hawkeye. Max was happy, and finally actually knew who was in the commercial for once. And this is only after Max being forced to, and seeing all the movies over and over again. And probably also in the wrong order, so we actually remember something, you know? But yeah, I communicate, we, and then also stuttering and, like, silence and everything. Will also, a lot of times, be more patient, but depends on the day and everything, you know? But just overall, in general, and compared to other people, especially people who, like, don't know us, we're a lot better at helping each other. Yeah, but no. Especially when I was talking more, but even after, like, breaks, and Max hadn't seen them for months, or, like, almost, like, a year and everything, instantly pick up and reconnect and understand each other perfectly. It just works with best friends and, like, super close family, like my sister, because we were mostly just forced to be best friends, because there was no one else to talk to. So then you, like, really learn each other, but then you, like, hate each other sometimes, you know, because that's just how it works, being siblings. So sometimes it's just not good, so you would hate even everyone or anyone who was nice to you. And then you're like, you can't be nice all the time, so it's just chaos. No, but yeah. A lot of time, even if there's, like, time and years apart, you can be, like, instantly reconnect and pick up on a random topic and be good to go, and there's no confusion, and you can... Because usually what confuses you and gets you stuck is usually forgotten in those conversations, and they have less questions in general, too. So you can finish your thoughts, and you can finish a conversation, even if it's all the random stuff, like this one, in between. But they also were like, oh, you have to make all these random stops and talk about all these other things to finish the conversation and be done with it. And then they'll actually also be like more attentive and be more interested and invested and pay attention to all the just details and be like, oh, actually, I remember what you said this time because you took breaks and you stopped and you switched topics. And you'd be like, other people might when you finish or stay on a topic, but you can't. And it's the only way to finish, and they get that. They get you. And it just works overall. Okay, next video.